9, which is a public hearing. And this is to receive input regarding the enterprise fund rate increases. Can you, Greg, can you go over what the proposals are, what the history of it was?
Sure. We had a meeting where we met with the city councilmen who were present, who could meet there at the time, and we spoke about some of our infrastructure needs and some of the reasons for this meeting. And in that discussion, I was asked to put together a series of options, the sewer being the most pressing or current issue that we have. And it was shown that we weren't, we talked about depreciation and that we weren't funding basically any depreciation, and that our sewer system is in disrepair currently.
Great. Yep. Before you move on, can you maybe explain for a lot of people here what depreciation is?
Sure. Depreciation is based on when you take new debt or when you do new projects, you depreciate that project over X amount of years. You can generally choose how many years to do it, but the general idea is that you need to save enough money over X amount of years that you choose to depreciate that project in order to, at the end of the life of that project, so say when your building falls down in 30 years or whatever the case may be, that you have the money then to replace that building and don't have to go take debt again. Generally speaking, funding depreciation in its entirety is very difficult. Even when you think you are, you're generally not. The issue with our sewer situation is that we have very little debt on the sewer fund and haven't for many, many years because we haven't kept up our sewer infrastructure. Realistically, we have 2 loans, current loans on the sewer system. One of those was the lagoons, and I'm not sure the other one currently, but
One of them would have been the infrastructure under Main and Center Street.
under Main and Center. Okay. And so that's the only infrastructure that we've invested in the last long time, I guess. One of the issues that brought it up is our general liability insurance skyrocketed this year due to sewer backups into residences' homes. And so the conversation kind of started as, hey, we're having this huge increase in insurance premiums because of incidents that are occurring due to our aging infrastructure. So would we rather, we have a cost here regardless, would we rather fix the problem or continue to pay insurance when people's houses flood? And then the conversation just kind of continued from there. So we still have a lot of, my understanding is we still have a lot of the clay pipes or our sewer pipes and things of that nature, and we costs us quite a bit extra in maintenance and time due to that. We have to clean them out probably once a month sometimes, where normally you're supposed to clean them out maybe every other, or every 6 months, kind of every year. Instead, we're doing it once a month. So costs are piling up regardless of whether we fix the system or not. And so it seemed prudent to the citizens to, rather than just fix their basement after they flooded, to actually fix the problem in the street. So that's where the conversation went from. So I was asked to give a bunch of options in the sewer fund on how we could fund depreciation and start saving a little bit of money so that we could do these projects without hopefully taking some of the debt that we've previously spoken about with the interest rates, high interest rates or large principals with big interest rates, such as was spoken about earlier. That's kind of the goal, is to be able to do these projects without that interest rate, which costs so much. So on the sewer, we presented 5 options to the city council. There were many different options. Those options affect different entities in different manners. Some affect residential and commercial similar, some are commercial heavy, some are residential heavy, things of that nature. And the council can have those options to choose what they want and go from there. I don't know if you want me to much further. But
I just have a comment. One of my, and I've heard it from a lot of citizens, one of my biggest concerns is time and time again, we invest huge money, or the county invests huge money, or whatever, to put in a nice new road in a neighborhood, but we have no money to fix the pipes that are underneath. And so what happens? 6 months later, we got a broken pipe, we got problems, and we tear up the road to fix the pipe. You know, and hopefully, I mean, my thought is hopefully this will help us so that, all right, we're gonna replace this road or whatever, and now we have some money available where we can fix the sewer underneath, so we're not always tearing things up. That's my hope, because it is, I think, frustrating when we all see that happen.
And that's why we have, you know, the one depth, because that's exactly what UDOT required, is
Fix the
you know,
ones now.
all the water and sewer done underneath the main and center before they would spend state and federal money if we would repay it. So it's a good model to follow. So, public comment. Bob Curry.
Well, I think everybody here, most of all of you, understand that I am strongly opposed to any tax increases or increase in fees. And I understand what you guys are talking about here with this sewer problems and all that. But I think it's a damn poor time to be going after it. Our nation is probably at its lowest it's ever been financially, and that includes every level of government, from the city up to the federal government. And I'll bet you $100 that every level of government is looking for a way out. And guess who they're looking at? They're looking at they're looking at us down here, you know, at this level to bail them out. Well, I prepared this letter. This is expressing my feelings, and I guess you'll do what you want, but it's how I feel about it. I'm going to read this letter.
Thank you.
Want to call you Mike? Well, okay, the city is handing the community one hell of a Christmas present this year. How would you like a present of utility increases? I strongly oppose any idea the city may have of increasing fees or any city utility. This simply is not the time for increasing the financial burden on the citizens of this community. It is no secret that the income of our residents has been absolutely flat for the past several years. How can you possibly burden them with additional expenses when your average citizen is already overloaded with increased costs of groceries, energy, and everything else he has to have purchased to sustain life? No one likes our current situation, but we must do the best we can, make necessary sacrifices, and live within our means. How can you even think of dumping your financial burden onto your own overloaded people? I believe it is imperative that the city do exactly what the rest of us are forced to do. Sacrifice where necessary, make do with what you have, and stay within your current funding, because the well is dry. There is no more to give. I can hear your response now. We just have to have more money to continue your service. Well, I for one am not buying this. Not at this time of national financial crisis. I know that every level of government is thinking the same thing. The public will bail us out. They better think again, because I said there isn't any more. It is not that I believe the city isn't having a struggle meeting their responsibilities. I know you are. But don't put it back on us. We have our own problems to deal with. My suggestion to you folks is to do the very best you can with your current funding until better times. Better times come, and then let's talk about utility increases. This just isn't the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
How did you come up with the figure that you need?
Okay, John Black.
How did you come up with the figure that you need of dollars? I had to come up with 70,000 for sewer.
Well, I'll explain that.
It's our current depreciation that we're not funding.
For years, we didn't have any depreciation funded at all.
And that hasn't for years, right?
And we're actually, on our current budget, $70,000 is the total depreciation, basically. We're not funding any depreciation in the sewer fund.
I think it's a difference of opinion there,
But
because
we've had
you're
this
saying
conversation many
no
times, yes.
depreciation is funded, yet we fund enough to pay the debt. So if there was no debt that needed to be paid,
Your depreciation is on top of debt.
there would be depreciation funded.
There's depreciation on top of debt. If you had no debt, you have no depreciation, correct?
So right now, we are funding, if we had no debt, we would be funding depreciation.
No, because you would have no depreciation.
The bill would be the same, we're not paying the bill, we're not paying any debt, so there's extra money in the account.
The depreciation would have been there in the first place, we wouldn't have had that.
We've had this conversation many, many times. I apologize if state finances and accounting laws in the state of Utah state it this way, and people don't agree with it. I apologize if that's the case. But I am obligated to follow state financing and accounting laws.
Scott Person.
This gets back to what I was talking about initially, and that is the accumulation of debt on, we have an insatiable need for new, whether it's, like I say, new pro shops, new swimming pools, new this, new this, new this. And all of those things come with O&M, they come with debt payments, they come with all of these associated fees and costs. I mean, I've been around enough times and listened to these discussions on fee increases in, over the last few years, and I understand them. But each time, the fee increases are sold to us with the idea that we have to make some money, quote unquote, they haven't always couched it in the terms of funding depreciation, but the bottom line is, the sewer fees were initially established with the idea of making more money than the sewer was costing us. Well, something has happened with the excess money that didn't get accumulated. It got spent somewhere else. And now we're back again revisiting the same issue, and that is taking more money for essentially the same level of service to fund depreciation, which just means there's a fund there that some well-meaning city council in the future will be able to rob.
Not legally.
Well, yeah, well, there's always ways around it. Like I say, I've been in these seats before. The bottom line is, Bob turned it right. You're trying to get water out of a stone here. I mean, there are people in Monticello, and I haven't heard the figures yet from Greg here, but I've heard, like $15, $18 a month here is what this proposal is. There are people in this community that can't afford that. I mean, I think we need to, I'm a business owner, and I would love every year to be able to go in and buy new stuff for my business. But when the revenue isn't there, I just have to stand pat. And I think there's a time for this city to basically go, we can't take on any more CIB priority list this year if it costs us anything. And if next year economics haven't improved, then next year needs to be the same way. But this constant taking upon ourselves additional costs, and we all think, well, it's only, I remember when the visitor center was built, the O&M was that's only going to be a few dollars because CNHA is going to do this, and da-da-da-da-da. The bottom line is, it costs money. And I don't care if it's budgeted. You guys have the idea that the federal government has the idea that the pockets are bottomless. And they're not. And they're not here in Monticello. So I just think there needs to come a time for some real fiscal austerity measures, and the city of Monticello needs to participate in them. And stop doing all this stuff that costs us money for 20 years.
That's what we're trying to do, I think, so we don't go into debt.
Well, Brad had the thing right there. The original sewer fees, when they were set up here not too many years ago, where you charged us for water going in and water going out, that was a new thing. And that was supposed to generate money that went into a fund that did what and went where. I mean, has anybody ever accounted for that money? It certainly didn't all go to pay Nate and these guys.
Goes into the sewer funds. Yeah, it does help fund.
But it doesn't, I mean, all of us pay a lot of money. I mean, I've been in here before because I feel the sewer formula the way it is unfair to some of us. I mean, come in here a couple of years ago because I was getting charged for water I was putting in a swimming pool that was not going into the sewer system. But nobody seemed to care. All I'm saying is that I'm more than happy to pay my fair share, but we need to avoid Obama's definition of what's fair because we've passed that already. And I think you guys need to look out at the 2,000 people who live here and go, you know, we just can't do this anymore. And if it means a year or 2 years or 3, whatever it means, of no projects for a while, then that's what it means.
Bob?
I think that if you look at businesses throughout the United States, you'll find a lot of them, are as bad a shape as our city is for funding. And I bet you they're not paying depreciation fees to themselves either. Those are one of the things that will sacrifice at a time like this, when we're all broke.
That's when those companies are the ones that go out of business.
That's right. You're absolutely right.
The ones that don't
They
fund
go out
their
of business.
depreciation go out of business.
But they're gonna do that, they're gonna stay there as long as they can. Now, you're expecting not us to keep you in business, and that's getting damn hard to do because we haven't got any income myself. I just got to keep telling you that the majority of the income in this county has been flat for a hell of a long time now, 0. And all the time, things are going like this. Groceries, fuel, energy, because everything is creeping up on us. It's silent in everything we have. And then you come along and say, well, just a few bucks here for the city is great. The city's going to have to sacrifice as well and put off some of this stuff until we have better times. And there is a little bit more revenue out there to draw from. There isn't any revenue out there to draw from. The people, if you go down there and talk to the people in this community, and that's why I'm a little disappointed tonight, because when you advertise these hearings in the legal section of the paper, nobody reads it. But this is a very important meeting to a lot of us. Very important, and I believe if you'd have taken the time to put an article in the paper that said we're going to have a public hearing on the fee increases, this room would have been full. I'll bet on it. But you didn't do that, so nobody's going to hear what you need to hear, and that is we're broke.
Okay, Bob, thank you. Any other public comment?
Mine.
Bonnie,
I'm in the corner.
I thought you were the TV cameraman.
Yeah, I'm gonna step out for a sec. Not in front of it though. I just wanted to add my 2 bits worth. I agree with Bob. I also understand that, the system's getting old and it's a mess on some streets worse than others. My biggest heartache on this whole thing every time I hear about a fee increase is the fact that, like sitting on the airport board, spending $1 million on an airport and all this kind of stuff, and then you're going to have the maintenance cost on top of that you got to come up with. And just like you talked about tonight, the $20,000 payment that we're going to have to make for the clubhouse, and then there's the maintenance cost that's going to be on that. I'm not 100% sold that cost, that maintenance cost that's got to come out of the general fund somewhere, couldn't be put into a fund to take care of some of these problems without raising the cost on all the citizens. Because I agree with Bob 100%. We just don't have it. I mean, between the city hits us for a few bucks, okay. County hits us for a few more. The federal government hits us for more. Now we got Obamacare that's going to kill all of us. So, it just, there's no end to it. And I think that's the biggest problem. That's just my 2 bits on it.
Thank you.
I just want to say something real quick. I agree with a lot of it, but from an operator standpoint, from where I sit, from what I've been taught and learned over the years, each enterprise fund is supposed to operate on its own 2 feet. And in the sewer fund, it's tough as an operator when we flood somebody's basement and we flood it again and we got to go tell them we don't have the $10,000 in savings to go fix it so it doesn't happen again. I don't think we're looking at making money, we're looking at taking care of the citizens and being able to fix something when it needs repair. We're not talking about getting $1 million and doing $1 million projects. For me, it would be just awesome to have a little bit of reserve, so if our sewer machine takes a dump, we can get a new one. I mean, if somebody's line completely breaks, we can repair it. Those are the things why I feel like the sewer part of it is
When my car breaks down,
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
well, I mean, if your sewer plugs up and we just tell you, well, you're gonna have to go in a bucket for a while because we can't fix it. That's what we're trying to avoid, is we just wanna take the best care of our sewer system as we can. And we haven't put much money into it for years.
Okay.
Yeah, when my car breaks down, I have to fix it. I need that car. Just like you need to fix that sewer line. Something else is gonna have to give in my budget in order to do that. Somewhere, something's gotta give. And that's where we're at in the city right today, folks. We're at that point. Yeah, we can't let that stuff go. But on the other hand, you're gonna have to find that money somewhere else, because we don't have it anymore. You know, I'm to the point where I don't wanna pay any more taxes. And I certainly don't wanna pay any more utility fees than I'm paying. You know, because I believe that there are alternatives. Maybe they're not pleasant alternatives, maybe we all will be sacrificing as a result of those alternatives, but that might be the way we have to go, because bucks isn't solving this thing.
Okay, all right. You know, I'll allow you if you can bring up something different, okay? We know where you stand.
I just wanted to say, my point here is not in opposition to the sewer. I'm fine with paying this. I'm just saying that from a philosophical standpoint, we just need to adjust what we're looking at. I mean, I understand completely everything that's being said here, and I agree with it. I'm just, my position here is, we gotta look at a bigger picture here than just the sewer depreciation fund here. Is next year, is it water? Is next year it's a secondary water? Is it next, I mean, you've just got to look at the fact that a bigger picture.
I will look out one or two. John?
I just had a couple more questions. Are each of these enterprise funds separate,
Yes.
like a separate
Yes.
checking account or just?
No, like they're separated.
They're accounted for separately,
Yes. They have their own budgets and they have their income, their expenditures, which, you know, like the public works, you divvy up part of the employees to those funds, you know, for a little contribution that they have, impact on the public employees.
So that money can only be spent on water projects? If it's a water fund, water project?
The only way that they,
Sewer fund, sewer project, right?
John, the only way that they can be spent on anything other than that is if the city council holds a public hearing, but then they also, a new state law is in effect that if they want to take money from the water fund and use it, say, in the sewer or in the general fund, we would have to send out a letter to every single citizen of the community notifying them of the intent in that meeting. So the only way to do it would, everyone would get a letter notifying them, and then we would probably hold a series of 2 or 3 meetings before that with public hearings. And that is the only way that you can cross funds anymore.
Generally, what's happened is the general fund's been subsidizing the enterprise funds.
The only other question I have is maybe on the time where so many of you are leaving office. Maybe this is something that could be put up till January, let the new council decide.
So I think we actually talked about it, and trust me, all the people leaving office were kind of in favor of that. But I think it was kind of agreed on that that's not something that's fair to push upon a new council. I think nobody really wanted to say, well, congratulations, here you go, now you gotta vote maybe to increase rates on everybody.
Let's talk about something you.
Yeah, we all kind of thought, well, maybe that ought to be done by the people that had discussed it and been involved in kind of shaping their thoughts there.
The, you know, the negative here is that by us having to pay the debt and fund depreciation, you're really paying double. And then secondly, if you were a person who, I don't know, if you moved from Monticello, you've been paying that depreciation, you know, you know, you didn't benefit from that.
I guess you do in essence if your infrastructure of the city is in good shape, that adds value to your property. You know, you would get some, you know, it's kind of a hard thing to measure, but if you gotta, you know, if the town gets a reputation as just a hard infrastructure, it definitely affects the property values. Yeah.
And then last question, is there secondary, is there a proposal of a secondary metering? Is that for next year's usage?
Yeah, there is a proposal that wouldn't go, that would be possibly on the commercial, the large users.
But then,
We passed a resolution earlier this year that we would not raise any residential. rates
Residential.
2 years?
2
Yeah.
years.
Now,
That's what I
it-
thought.
We are looking at commercial rates and mayor's talking.
it's been discussed that, you know, what we might look at is doing the commercial this year and a residential increase that would not go into effect until 2015.
Well, and just to make that clear, the proposed option from the staff for the residences, for most residences would not even increase their rate. Unless they use an absorbent amount of water.
You're talking about secondary here?
Yes.
John,
What
that's a question
qualifies
about
as a
secondary.
large commercial use? Is it gonna be measured through the metering?
Through the size of the pipe.
Anything over 1 inch connection.
And
Residential's 1 inch, correct?
the theory is, Scott, the base rates will stay the same throughout, 1 inch,
Any size.
2 inch, everybody's base rate would stay the same whether you're a 4 inch line or a 1 inch line, but then we start charging off the usage and put the charges in effect for the commercial users this next water season. And then monitor the residential use and see if we're right in our base amount, in our base usage. And then adjust that accordingly to where the average citizen doesn't pay, or the average user doesn't
Nate, am I understood it correct though, that the base rate, that the amount that was included in the base rate was even for commercial too, they got that as well?
pay. Yeah,
So,
for now, and
on
then,
small
then in the-
commercial, that, their rate, where they wouldn't see any usage, because, I don't know how big your grass is that you water, but if it's, if this council decides that 20 or 30,000 gallons a month is included in your base rate, and you don't go over that, then all you pay is your base rate.
I don't even have as much grass as a decent sized
A normal
property,
house.
house.
So you wouldn't see an increase. That's the
The
way.
base rate for a residence and the base rate for a commercial is gonna be the same?
It'll stay what it is now.
Whatever you're paying now, you wouldn't see an increase.
The sewers, the secondary's not really divided into commercial, we say commercial, but it's more
That's not on the.
in the
Large
commercial
connection.
size.
Greg, so you're, based upon current budget, there is no depreciation budgeted in the sewer fund.
$5,000 a year, is what we say.
How come in our budget that's not correct?
You have to look at the capital budget.
I'm looking at the enterprise fund budget, and we fund depreciation. We budget depreciation in the enterprise fund budget
And
under sewer.
then take out your payments.
We fund $55,000 of a $74,000 budgeted item.
Take out your payments.
Nothing is in here. It says the sewer fund is off $17,000.
That's why you have to look at capital budget.
So our
If we take that
interest
attitude, we're
expense
saying
is
that,
$10,000?
we're saying that our loan
Our-
payments
Is
aren't
our
real.
capital in this one? Because there's an interest expense of $10,000.
That's the interest on the loans. The capital that is left is the principal on the loans.
50,000?
Yeah, there's a $5,000 and there's two that are just over 20.
But that's total. Total payment,
That's why we're funding the
because that's
budget.
total payment. So
That's
payment includes
total,
this
that's
$10,000
total
interest.
payment of principal. I mean, we've been over this many times, and I apologize, but the last,
Many times, Greg.
the last meeting that we had that you weren't at, we went through it very thoroughly, so I apologize. I'm willing to sit down and spend as much time as anybody needs. But the interest expense is the interest on the loans, which
$10,000.
is in the operational budget by state law.
$10,000.
Correct. The principal of those debts are in the capital budgets, which do not show on the operational budget, which means you have to add that back in. And when you add that back in, all you save, if the budget was adhered to 100%, you would save $5,000 a year in the sewer fund.
But right now, we budget $55,000 that goes into a capital fund of another $50,000, which I said if there was no debt, we'd save $55,000. If we didn't have a debt payment.
Sure.
Okay.
Question.
Yes.
What was the figure you were instructed to go out and
Seven-
set up these,
It's right around $70,000.
and where did that figure come from?
The $70,000 is, if you look at what our depreciation is, it's $70,000 that we're not funding.
And that's based off our current loans, correct? Is that
Our current loans are 50,000, did we just hear?
That's what I was told, $50,000 was our loans.
You can depreciate, it's all about how the city chooses to depreciate. It must, at some time, the city can depreciate quicker or longer than your loan took to pay on too.
Oh, I was just curious as to where that figure was pulled
And
out
that
of
is
the
where,
air.
it's through the accounting process of what we have depreciating right now in the sewer system.
Okay. Any other public comment? If you do, I'd like you to get it in now, because when we go into the next portion where we consider the funds, that has to be council. Any other public comment? Okay, we'll move out the public comment period for enterprise fund rates and go in to item 10, consider enterprise fund rates.
Now it's my turn. One thing, in a public hearing, the public's supposed to talk, we're not supposed to debate that amongst the council. It's up to the public to come in and say. The other thing is, like Bob says, there's a lot of people that come talk to me and they're dead set against this. And I said, well, come to the council meeting. And the comment I get from them, there's no reason to go to council meeting because they do what they want to do. And the other thing is, on the depreciation, we have spent that depreciation money over the past years to balance budgets, to loan it to the water fund, and it never gets repaid. And there's nothing to say that a future council can't do that same thing, even if you're gonna have a public hearing. And that, the truth is that they will spend it if they need it. So you can save all the depreciation you want, but somebody will spend it if they need it in the future. So that's my comment.
And we've been real creative in those budgets of taking payroll for city's employees out of those budgets. And so
For jobs that they do
we
regarding those
we
funds.
get real creative in taking it and see where they want to go. You know, based upon what rates we're looking at, you're looking at a sewer increase minimum of 16 to 40% on a 5,000 gallon user, based upon what you presented, 16 to 40%. City bills in the last 8 years have increased over 70%. I can guarantee we haven't increased Nate wages 70%. No wages in town have increased 70%, yet the city bills have. And we're looking at a minimum just in sewer of 16, based upon what was presented to us, to as high as 40. Now, we don't need to raise anything. We fund the depreciation.
If we'd have funded the depreciation, we wouldn't have the loan sitting out there.
The thing is, we
What happened?
funded it in the past and we spent it. I've been on the council for 10
Well,
years.
then
and
we've got
spent it in
some
the
people
past.
doing illegal things in the city.
It's not illegal, they can legally do it. All you gotta do is have a public hearing and spend it to balance your budget, or to lend it to the water fund, or lend it for garbage. You do whatever you want.
Doug, is it appropriate to ask a question?
Council discussion.
I mean, like I say, I've been on the council for 10 years, and I've seen it done a number of times. And it never gets repaid, ever. The following year, they just go in and say, we'll just write it off. And then the next time you need a rate increase, you go back and say, well, we gotta fund depreciation. Well, if the councils had to leave it where it's at and not touch it for anything, then it would be fine. But you can't use it as a savings account and expect it to be where you need it.
And I've been on council 8 years and never have we been told that depreciation and loan repayment was anything different. On the budget, it says depreciation, and we funded it $55,000.
And, you know, I respectfully disagree.
I do
Been
too.
on longer.
We were told we funded depreciation. If it was different, why wasn't it on that budget as different?
Well, whether it was on there or not, looking at it from my perspective, it's not there. Whether somebody said it was or not, it's not there.
So is it better not to fund it just because there's a chance in the future that a council may use it for something besides what we set it aside for?
No, the problem
Because I'm not saying there's not a chance that that could happen
No,
somewhere.
it'll happen again.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened before.
It's happened before, and it'll happen again. We've gone through this
Seems like the
forever.
general funds funded the enterprise funds in the past.
Now, you go back and check it over the years, they borrowed money from the enterprise funds to balance the budget. During the drought year, they borrowed money from the enterprise funds to do water, and it was gone. I know, but we never paid it back. The depreciation is one
The
of the
water
problems.
fund never paid the
That
general
was
fund back.
general fund that never got paid back.
It's because the water fund wasn't funded properly.
Well, the reality is we're all the ones that are sitting here that have to make the decisions. And when you guys leave, there'll be two more, and we'll have to make the decision. And so, you know, that's what we have to look at. And I think we've done a great job to try to cut back, but the reality is we've got to be able to have at least enough to operate. I mean, we've cut back wages, we've cut back insurance. You know, we haven't splurged in anything, in my opinion. We've just been trying to keep the tires going as long as they'll go. I mean, what we're looking at here is on the options, we gotta go through the options. Why don't you read those? We gotta just read those out and let's talk about what's presented here and so we know what we're looking at.
Would you like me to just start with the sewer and?
Yeah, I wouldn't really like that, though, it's confusing.
Is this one? Well, yeah.
I would just say.
So there was a lot of different options to fund it entirely. The first one was to raise usage by roughly 50 cents per 1,000 gallons, along with $1.50 per month on the base rate. That's the one that's recommended by the staff. To do the same thing, there's 2, 3, 4, and 5 option. You could increase the.
Which, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but can you just say which would result in an increase of so much per
Sure.
citizen?
So if we did a 5,000, say take a 5,000 gallon residential house, which that, a family of 5, give or take, that would be about what they use per month. That would be roughly a $4 increase on the sewer. Okay. If we went to option 2, which is raising usage by 40 cents, which would then also mean a base rate of $4 a month would need to be added. That same resident would see a $6 increase. If we did option 3, We could increase it by 25 cents on the usage or $6 on the base rate. That resident would see a $7.25 increase. If you went to option 4, which meant just increasing purely the usage, no base rate, by 73 cents per 1,000 gallons, that resident would see a $3.65 increase on their sewer bill per month. Option 5, which is the last one, is to raise the base rate by $8.75 a month, which would obviously increase that resident by $8.75 per month. The recommendation from the staff is to go with option 1, which generally speaking is more residential friendly, and an average family would see about a $4 increase in the base rate. Do you want to go through the water?
If they were using 10,000 gallons, it'd be $6.50.
Yeah, it goes up accordingly to that. We've also talked about a 20-cent increase on the usage for water, which a resident would see a $1 a month increase of that 5,000, using that same scenario. And we've proposed a 5% increase across the board on sanitation, which means that resident will see an 84-cent increase per month. So the average resident on a 5,000 gallon monthly usage, if we used option A and the recommendations from the staff, would see just under a $6 a month increase.
As a total for all three of them?
For all three, adding all three together, would see
684.
$5.84 actually.
Yeah, 584 in that.
$5.84. I mean, and obviously that's making some assumptions on the usage, but on 5,000 gallons.
Remind me again on option 4. So option 4 would be,
Purely
would
usage.
save about 40 cents, give or take, a month for people.
It would hit
Yeah.
the.
And also those that use more would pay more.
Correct. That was kind of the theory of trying to balance it a little bit. But the more you charge on the usage, the more commercial will see the brunt of it. And the more you charge on base, the more the residences will see.
So the option 1 is kind of just for the, to tell those of you here, like on a large water use, the option 1 is the second highest increase on a commercial. The option 4 is the highest. Where conversely, option 5, the lowest increase on a commercial and the highest on a residential. So,
Well, I'll make a proposal that,
motion or
to
proposal?
make a motion for option 1 on the sewer. Option 1 on the water, and a 5% increase on the sanitation.
You want to do anything with this motion on the secondary?
We would recommend option A.
On the secondary,
That would keep everybody's base rates the same and include 20,000 gallons within the base rate.
and that would leave alone all the residential,
Well,
correct?
my thoughts are is that if you did something on a secondary, you allow 1-inch connections topped out of that for this coming year. Or that they're not included in that for the next year.
For 2014.
Yeah.
Before we finish there, Scott, I personally think we need to leave secondary out.
Yeah, I think so too.
Don't even do anything with secondary. If we're gonna deal with these three, let's deal with them.
Okay, I'll leave the motion as stated.
So option one,
Option
what?
one sewer,
Sewer?
option one water, 5% increase on sanitation.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Scott Frost to adopt the following rate structures. Option one on sewer, option number one on water, and 5% sanitation rate increase. Motion was seconded by Scott Shakespeare. Any further discussion?
I just one comment, when we started talking about the sewer rates, it was to pay the increase in the insurance costs that we've gone from sewer to water to sanitation, we raised them all.
We went a long way from an insurance cost to 70 grand.
Well, in the work meeting, it started out, one of the reasons we were looking at it was the insurance, but as we looked at all the funds, it was evident that they hadn't been taken care of in the past. And we get the auspicious, we get the pleasure of dealing with it now.
Well, I disagree being taken care of in the past, but we've raised rates many times in 8 years.
Not nearly as fast as the cost of goods going up.
So this, across the three funds, with this, I mean, with this increase, we should be funding depreciation in full in all three funds? No,
Not in the water fund.
not the water fund still wouldn't,
The water fund, we're maybe funding a third of depreciation in the water fund.
even with the rate increase.
Yeah.
So don't we get an opportunity to comment on these options?
No.
It looks to me like I want to go on record here. Anyway, I want to go on record here on,
No.
this is a report, I'm saying it. Going on record here saying the public has been denied the opportunity to comment on the options.
Go ahead.
Amen.
There was plenty of time to do it.
We didn't.
Yeah, was those options expressed to us?
No.
I didn't hear
Okay.
until now.
All right. Go ahead and make your comment.
I made it. I'm going on record as saying I've been refused the opportunity to comment on the options.
I'm giving you that opportunity now, Bob.
Too late, you got, no motions in place.
Okay? No, we're in discussion right now.
Yeah.
The motion's been made and seconded. I'm giving you the opportunity. If you felt like you didn't have the opportunity,
I did.
make your comment now.
That opportunity should have been given to me when I had my chance to say what I had. It wasn't explained. The options were not.
Bob, we can sit here and argue, or you can give your
You can
comment.
need to act like you're the damn boss here, but you're not.
Bob, you have the opportunity to do it right now.
You know what you.
Okay, let it be on the record. You told the mayor of Monticello to hell with you. Thank you.
All right, everybody on record.
Anybody else want to do what he wanted to do?
I'll support Bob
You'll support Bob?
and what he said. I
Okay,
agree with
fine.
you. The options should have been presented in a manner that we could have taken those and studied them out
I'm
ourselves.
giving you that option right now,
I don't have them to study.
okay?
Nobody asked for it.
Yeah.
It wasn't hidden.
How do we know to ask for it?
Things to be heard in the hearings?
All right,
Has
if-
it?
I don't,
I guess if I had a question about it, I'd ask it if I didn't know it.
if you want a copy of it, here's a copy of it.
I didn't know there was any options even offered.
Well,
Until now.
Bob, it was options that we discussed as a city council.
I was told I couldn't comment.
No, you weren't.
Well, I wasn't.
I apologize if we didn't bring this up in the public hearing part. If you want to make a comment, now make a
Good,
comment.
I will. I'll go further than that, and I'll put it in the paper too.
Well, good. I appreciate it.
But as one that made the proposal, I'd be more than happy to listen to what you have to say.
Well, now you'll listen to me, huh?
If you want it, if you want to see it, I got it right here.
Now you're willing to listen to me.
I would like a copy if I could at the end.
You bet.
We did have one citizen who asked for
There
a
wasn't
copy
even
and he
copies
was
handed
faxed a
out.
copy.
Okay.
This is what I don't like about
Bob,
government, is
Bob,
all it's
Bob,
predetermined.
what it is it's funding the same amount with 5 options. Okay? Do you want me to read all the options?
No, I don't want to hear them now.
Okay, fine.
Stop.
All right. You? Would
What's
you like
that?
to hear?
I think you went over them.
I think we did go.
I think we did.
I'd just like to be able to study them
No
more, but
comment.
I'll do it later.
Maybe what we ought to do is, with a 5,000-gallon family, based upon the options presented, they'd see about a $7 a month, or excuse me, about a $6 a month increase with these options.
584.
Yeah, 584. And businesses that, I mean, I don't know what the average business is. I mean, we've had bigger businesses here.
Yeah.
But if you had a 78,000-gallon business that was water usage, there's about a 55, $77 increase based upon what has been the motion.
The motion that was made, as far as I can tell, is supporting the option, of the options, is supporting the option that would be the most residential friendly.
Sorry.
Like, I mean, there's the 5 options, but this one would be the least additional cost to the residents.
And I do that full well knowing that my business is gonna get hit pretty darn hard.
Well, and I'm the same way.
And I'm right with you, but it is what it is.
I mean, I'm sure I fall into the category of the large water
There's
users.
another motel on here, and it would be just in water and sewer, close to a $250 increase a month.
That's 340,000 gallons a month.
I don't understand what the differentiation is between residential and commercial. It's basic. I mean, I own a house too, so I'm gonna get hit twice. Bottom line is we're citizens of this community, and you guys you're just treating us with impunity.
We are too, by the way, just so you know.
Well, no, I do understand that.
Hey, you don't act like
Hey,
it.
let's keep this civil, okay?
That's an interesting statement made by you.
Doug, I have one question. May I ask a question then?
What?
May I ask a question?
Yes,
You did not vote on whether you're accepting this to increase or not.
it's under discussion right now. You asked for time.
You're talking about.
All right,
the
I'm
options.
closing off the public comment now, okay? All you gotta do is throw barbs.
Well,
and
anytime
everything.
you don't like what people say, that's
No,
what happens,
No,
isn't it?
we're in the discussion here. Any further council discussion?
Same old show.
All right. We'll do roll call vote. Councilman Brad Brennan,
Nay.
Scott Frost,
Aye.
Scott Shakespeare,
Aye.
Craig Levitt,
Nay.
Tim Young.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with 3 aye votes and 2 nays.